Hello and welcome to the conference. If you've been tuning in to talks throughout the last day, I really hope you've been enjoying each and every one of them. My name is Dez Melenka, and I am so very happy to be here. The idea that I get to stand here and just chit chat for a while is incredibly exciting. It's also empowering to know that we have so many young entrepreneurs in our city, in our province, and across the country even that really want to dive into their dreams and dive into their goals and see what they can do to make their impact, that lasting impression on their community and the world around them. It's a big deal. And being an entrepreneur isn't for anyone who is faint of heart or isn't willing to roll up their sleeves and work hard. And that's what really drew me to the idea of speaking to you guys here at the YETI conference, because of the small town roots, that small town community feel that I so wholeheartedly believe in. I was born in Edmonton, but raised in Gibbons. So if you don't know Gibbons, population has been at 3,000 on that sign for as long as I can remember. Maybe it's fluctuated up a little bit, maybe it's fluctuated down a little bit, but it's been right about that point my entire life. And it's that place and those people and that small town idea that really allowed me to be confident in my connections. I have huge love and respect for people who grow up and work in small towns because they're the fabric that makes who we are. I always little extra check mark for people that come from that small town background. But I have always been someone who has talked a little too much, have been a little bit too loud, and maybe dreaming bigger than I can even get my hands onto. Have you ever had that? Where you have these huge, big dreams, but getting to that point can seem so daunting and so unreal. But those things can happen. And it's taken me decades to get there, and I'm still learning each and every day, and you are just starting your process of learning. So the idea that you want to jump into this crazy world of being an entrepreneur is so exciting. It takes a special person to be that. So values are a big deal to who I am and to who I believe all entrepreneurs need to be and need to hold into them as they move forward. What your values are may differ from mine. But for us, for me here, family is number one and will always be number one. How can I create a better life for me, my family, and those people that I absolutely love? They're my ride or dies in this world. Community. I believe that there is huge power in connecting to the people around you. And that takes me back to the small town. I could knock on anybody's door and know I could get a cup of sugar or borrow some milk. And I knew that Bob lived 2 doors down and Andy lived right here and that their son was going here and that their daughter was going there. There's some power in that connection of community, people to lean on and lean into when you need it, or that you can be the support for them. And you, in my opinion, shouldn't have more than one community, right? There's communities for different parts and different seasons of your life. And that to me is vitally important as you start to grow as a whole person, but also as an entrepreneur. You're gonna have communities in your entrepreneur world that are for marketing, that are for your actual business, that are for your support, that are outside of your basic friend group because you have different goals and aspirations for that one particular part of your life. And it's a huge part of your life. It's so all encompassing so many days of the week. My parents kind of planted that seed, my mom in particular. They owned and operated so many different small businesses as I was growing up. She was a real estate agent and had a real estate firm. She was a hairdresser and owned Uptown Hair in Gibbons. It was there until not very long ago. And they opened and started a few liquor stores when that was privatized. Some of the small town bars and pubs, they would fix up and get them ready and then turn them over. And so I always saw how much they put into it, but how much they got out of it too, that we could go anywhere in the community. And they always knew that I was Kathy and Dez's daughter. There's something to be said in that. So I think I grew up watching them do that, and that idea of being an entrepreneur was really planted in early. However, I took a little bit of a different path. I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to be to share the stories of people. Little did I know that little nugget was going to take me through all different aspects of my life. I went to office administration for 2 years because, you need a practical job first and foremost. Then I went into radio and television over at NATE. And for 15 years, I was with CTV News in Edmonton. I worked my way up, though, through Terrace, BC. Let me tell you, how I got past Terrace, BC is a miracle to me. Yorkton. Then I went onto Regina. I started at the very bottom here at CTV Edmonton and worked my way up to an anchor position on the 6 o'clock news for the weekends, and then opening their CTV Morning Live program when that started, and then finally my own segment called On Your Street, which kind of did that full circle thing, right? It brought me back to sharing stories about communities and people doing great things that I always loved and watched around me entirely as I was growing up. So that full circle moment, and when things that started changing in the media industry and I had this opportunity to create the Creative Hive is when I jumped, and that backbone of entrepreneurship from my parents and that complete belief that if I worked hard enough, it would work, that something would work. And you have to have that ingrained in you. But here's the thing. I always thought I had to have a plan, and not just a plan, a very specific plan. I had to do A before I could do B, and I had to do B before I could do C, and I had to do C before I could do D. And it could never shapeshift or change. Those were what we were going to achieve. I don't know, but for me, I'd like to crumple that old plan up and throw it out the window, because the idea of being fluid through my path to success here at the Creative Hive is really what has allowed us to shape shift and grow and niche into what we need to do to become fulfilled, to become financially solvent. I mean, to be able to have a living doing this. Nobody yet is very wealthy, and we're not making huge amounts of money doing this, but you need to be able to pay the bills. You need to be able to keep the lights on in your space and in what you're doing. So for us, that idea of being flexible in the plan and taking the concept, the values you have in your business, and shifting those to what the needs are in the industry, in the world, hello COVID, and what you're doing are vitally important. So let me head back to the TV. What I learned from there is how to work with people. I learned about being part of a team. I learned about communication. I still believe that picking up the phone and dialing a number and talking to somebody on the other side of that phone is vitally important to move yourself forward, that there's still an importance for that human connection as we push through in any of our goals, not just ones in business. Texting is convenient and great. I text a lot. But there's something to be said for that conversation, for that ability to look somebody in the eye and share exactly what you need, exactly what you believe, and exactly what you're feeling to get you to where you need to go, right? Like, we're talking right now and I can't see you, but I'm imagining you sitting there full of ideas and budding with enthusiasm for what you want to do, your big dreams, your BHAGs, your big, hairy, audacious goals. You know them. They're deep inside you, and how each one of you is going to get there is going to be vitally, like, drastically different from each one. I won't pretend to be an expert in business, because I'm telling you, I am learning a lot every single day. But what I am an expert in is our business and how we've got to where we are right now. So I would love to share with you a bit about that, and maybe you can have some takeaways from our story and our struggles and our journey that can help you on yours. Our biggest one, though, is that bending path towards success. Okay, the Creative Hive. So imagine this. We walk into this beautiful warehouse. Oh, no, that's not right. We walk into a warehouse that was mainly used to redo front-end loaders. It was a mining company prior to. You couldn't breathe in our facility because the smell was so toxic almost. I don't think anything had been redone or upgraded in this space for decades, but it was always a space for industry, for construction, for something along those lines. But when we walked in, I walked in here with my business partner, one of my best friends, Mike Ty, the co-founder here at the Creative Hive. We wanted it to be something else. What we saw was a wide open space filled with possibility and potential. Possibility and potential. Huge, right? Those are big words. They're big words as you lead yourself into that life of entrepreneurship and as you lead yourself toward those big goals, regardless if it's a 9-to-5 job or a corporate job or anything. Possibility and potential. We didn't see all of that. We did smell it because you couldn't help it. But what we saw is the ability to make the space something we wanted. A space where creative people could come together and do what they do best in a place that welcomed them, that listened to them, and that allowed them to spread their wings. It also allowed us to do those things. And we wanted the definition of creative to not just be about an artist or a sculptor or a painter, but that there's creativity in each and everything that you do. An architect can be creative, an accountant can be creative, a writer is obviously very creative, that there's creativity in every aspect of every job if you're willing to look for it. And this was gonna be the space to do that. We were opening a co-working space in West Edmonton, and we were sure that was the way to go. So we planned for it. We planned big, we planned long. We figured out how many desks we thought we would need. We had projections and we had numbers and we did all of those things. And then we opened it up. And we just thought, they're just going to start coming in. No. But they did come, slowly but surely. And with each one of those, we started to really see that community being built. We started to see the people that were renting office spaces here. We started seeing that community and that hope and that resilience being built. And we learned from each and every person that walked in. And we learned that finite plan that we had in place maybe it would have to shift a bit because right now we had to keep the lights on. So what did that mean? It meant getting creative. It meant thinking outside the box. We didn't give up on the idea of co-working. We still talked a lot about it. We still worked hard to get people in the space for that specific reason. Co-working in and of itself for us was relatively new in the Edmonton landscape. So we kept pushing forward. And then one day someone said, this is a really great space. Can we just have an event here? And I was like, oh, we don't do events. But wait, why don't we? Could we? We probably could. And so that idea of being flexible and open to what could come our way was what allowed us to create some events, a kind of a revenue generation from the space that brought more community together. That word is prevalent in so many things we do here as part of our mission, as part of our values. Our vision here at the Creative Hive is no one's story goes untold. So how many communities does that encompass? Whose doesn't that encompass? So next thing we knew, events were starting to happen. They were starting to come in, and our business model had changed a little bit. Co-working wasn't taking off as much, and so we kind of leaned into the event side and explored that side of the world. And slowly we started to gain some traction, some momentum. So what did we do? We of course made a new plan, because I still had that mentality that without that perfect strategic plan in place, that it wasn't going to work. Little did I know that we could have done an overarching plan for our big goals and visions of our values. That has never changed, and that will never change. But what has changed is what it looks like on the outside and who is coming into the space, because all of a sudden our co-working space was becoming an event space, and we had this huge passion still for production, but that's not where it was coming in. It was coming in with events. And so we started moving in that path and working with more and more people, allowing ourselves to be flexible to what was going on. We had plans, daily plans. We had monthly plans, all kinds of plans. I planned to plan, if you know what I mean. They're essential, but they aren't everything. In my opinion, you have to be flexible and willing to shift and change as the market, as your business, as your vision, as your dream evolves and changes and moves towards what you need it to be for that time. So a year in, we started doing a few videos, started getting some momentum along that way, and realized, co-working wasn't really happening all that much, and realized that we just needed to keep moving and shaking things up. And staying true to who you are through each part of that, in my opinion, is vitally important. We started to figure out who we were. We started to figure out what we wanted. What do we want in all of this? Have you ever asked yourself that? Have you ever sat down and thought, what do I want? Outside of my plan, outside of the business idea, what do I want for me personally? I think it's an important question to ask yourself, and it's one that I continually ask myself, because the big wants never change. That idea that I have more time with my family, time, that one commodity that is so limited, is so finite, that we can't ever get back, we can't ever exchange, it's always the same. So I want more time with family and friends and people that care. That doesn't change. But what else do I want? I want to connect with more community. I want to give back more. My ability to give back more changes, and that changes as your business grows, shifts, changes, and evolves. Those are all really important things to know. But that weaving path continues for us here at the Creative Hive. So we were hanging in there. We were growing even, kind of in that one direction. A little bit of co-working, events picking up more and more steady, but there's a lot of work in that. There's a lot of manual labor. There was a lot of planning and preparation, and we weren't experts in that. So we started to work with a lot of experts, leaning in on those people who do what they do better than you do it. Let them. That's what they're great at, is being able to pinpoint in and say, you're really good at that. You should do that for me too. It's helped us learn, it's helped us grow, and it's helped us continue that shifting path as we head towards what will be success. And I would say we are successful. We were right from the beginning because we were happy. The idea of getting up and coming into work each and every day was not a chore. It was something that we wanted to do. And we could see that there was potential and possibility. Big things as you're pushing and moving forward. So what do you want your business to be? Number one, does it have potential? Does it have possibility? Does it ignite a passion? Does it inspire you to want to give back and do better and do bigger and move mountains to create what you need? Those are big ideas and big things. And the Creative Hive was starting to be that, because now it wasn't that place where when we'd bring people in and they would say, oh, what are you going to do in here? People could see the vision. They could see what we created around us, and they had a little bit of trust built into what we wanted to do in this space. So we're about a year in, and we were trucking along. We were hanging in there. Events are going well. Video was slowly starting to pick up, working hard to establish our names in that world outside of the media. Both Mike and I came from CTV News and media backgrounds, working at many stations throughout our years there. But if we only had stuck to our original plan, I wonder where we would have been if we didn't allow ourselves that flexibility to change as the space, as this space that we could not move was dictating how people wanted to use it. If we didn't allow ourselves to shift our vision or plan for a business, what would it have been then? I don't know, but I'm really excited of where it's gone. And just when we thought we were close to some of those big goals, that extra time, financial security, some of those things, then a world pandemic hit. At that time, we had about a 3% vacancy rate for the upcoming summer. We were so excited. It was the first time our calendar was full. We knew we had studio bookings and event bookings and things were happening, and it was exciting. And then the entire world shut down. Each and every one of you felt it too. It's the one thing, that one commonality that we all have. Possibility, potential. We weren't sure what either of those things looked like as COVID-19 kind of disrupted our whole lives. One day we were in here working, and the next day, nothing, closed. Events canceled. How long? Oh, only a few weeks, I'm sure, right? And I remember sitting in that room with Mike and another gentleman that was doing some contract work for us, and well, how are we going to make sure people remember who we are as we go through this idea of COVID? What are we going to do? Well, we do video. We can't do events or anything like that because COVID is here. What are we going to do? Again, being able to be flexible and shift and change as the market needs us to be, while still sticking true to our values, to our mission, to our vision of who we are as people and as a business, right? That doesn't change. But we had to be flexible. We had to be able to bend and maneuver, because if we didn't, let's be honest, there would be no Creative Hive. Full stop, done, over. Our business revenue was gone. At the close of the pandemic, it closed everything down. So what were we going to do? We decided we needed to stay in front of people. We needed to make sure that the community that we had worked so hard to cultivate and build, and it was still growing at that point, it still is growing today. And I hope it continues to grow for so many more years to come, because we are nowhere near that BHAG in this building and in this space and in this city and in this province and in this country. Oh my goodness, there's some big things coming, and we're so excited to see where this business takes us. But at that point, we knew we had to stay relevant. We had to stay talked about. We had to stay that we were open without being open. And so what do? We leaned back on our video side, because we could communicate this way, right? Virtually. We could connect with people still. We could still build that community. We could still show possibility and potential. But whose potential? Well, why don't we show the potential of everybody around us and see where that leads? So we did. Every day for 3 months, we did a Facebook Live. We talked to people in our community, people that had to close their doors. We talked to small businesses that were finding cool and unique ways to keep their doors open in the virtual sense, if not, literally open. We talked to restaurants that were doing takeout. We talked to people that were losing their jobs and had created something on their own. We talked to city councilors about what the city was doing. We just kept talking. We kept showing up with our Creative Hive banner. And the next thing we knew, we were being talked about even more. And our doors weren't even open. But without the idea of being flexible, I'm going to keep going back to that. Without the idea of being flexible, it never would have worked. It never would have been able to work, because we needed to maintain that movement. We needed to be able to maintain that shift as our business had changed without us even knowing that it was going to. So we continued to push forward. And you're going to face the same things. There's going to be extremely awesome days. There's going to be very bad days. There's going to be middle days. And there's going to be elation. The roller coaster of entrepreneurship, as you probably already know, is up and down and around. So how do we find that level ground? I'll let you know when we find it. All right, so we started doing those Facebook Lives and pushing on the video side. And then we got introduced to somebody named Dr. Jody Carrington. She was a Spitfire who was on a mission to reconnect a disconnected world, her words. And she was going to do these virtual events. And she didn't want to do just Zooms. She didn't want to do, no interaction. She wanted to do something big, something that showed people their value, because she was putting value in the work that she was doing and what she was creating. And she asked us if we could do a little virtual event. little, in her words, it was not little at all, but we naively thought absolutely. But we'd never done a virtual event. We didn't have the equipment. We had the knowledge. We knew how to produce. We knew how to make video. If we weren't willing and being ready to be flexible and to shift and change as the market needed, again, honing in on that point, this wouldn't have happened. We decided to be honest. We said we can do all of these things incredibly well. We are masters at storytelling. Mike and I won a dozen awards, international, universal awards for storytelling. Edward R. Murrow Awards. Like, we won big things because we knew how to tell stories. We were good at that. So we told her that. With the caveat, we've never done a virtual event. We've never produced something of that size, but we can. We have that small town ethic. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to get it done. And instead of just running to the hills, Jody, being a small town girl herself, said, okay, you get a chance. I believe you can do it. And my goodness, did we ever. It was so much fun. It was more work than we had done in a very long time, in a very different way. But started to feel that buzz again because I didn't know where COVID was going. Who knows where it's going right now? But we knew we had to keep moving forward and being able to shift into what we needed to become to be relevant, to stay open, and to be successful. After that first event, there's a few more, but what it did do was establish us in that video realm. So events weren't happening. We're now, 6 or 7 months into COVID-19, and they still weren't coming back. We had to lean in on our video production side, those years of work on that, in that world through media. But Jody's events and her team and her belief in us allowed us to believe that we could do it. And other people started believing it too. And slowly but surely, we started to generate and to attract other projects. And we were able to hang on, and we're still hanging on and hoping. But we are fluid in the idea that we could learn and we could do, and that there was a process that each and every one of us could take to get to that next step. And so over the next few months, video kept us going. We were not nearing any of the projections, all those plans that we had, those projection numbers and all those fancy things that we had set up. We were nowhere near any of those things. And our plan was this way, and then it went that way, fast and furious. But if we didn't go with it that way, there wouldn't be a Creative Hive. Think about that. If you're not willing to shift and change a little bit, I'm not huge on the word pivot because I feel like that's a complete turnaround from what you're doing. But the idea that you can shift and change and your business can become what it needs to be as it needs to be it, and you can find yourself in that and maybe bring in more people as you go is exciting. So as this video side started really developing for us, and that's where our passions have always been, because it allowed us to connect to that community we talk about, to share stories. Again, vision. No one's story will go untold. It's right there. But and the world now starting to open up again, fingers crossed, as we move through this pandemic, events want to come back. But that's not where our heart and our passion lies. We love to see the people in here. We love to bring them together. But that's not my expertise. And so we've looked at our business plan now. Said, okay, well, video is this part of it. Great, but there still can be an events part of it. But maybe we aren't the ones who run that aspect. Maybe we bring in some of those experts to do that part so that more people can use the space, more communities can be connected, more people can become parts of different communities, and it allows us to round out the picture. So what was a co-working space in an empty warehouse evolved into so many different things, and it's still evolving. So today, right now, the Creative Hive as an umbrella is building. It can't move, it's here, it's always here. There's office rentals, yes. Co-working, no, not right now. But there is co-working in the sense that all the people in the office work together. It's incredible to walk through the space and hear them connecting and hear them talking and helping and working with each other. It's my favorite place to be. It always has been. So we have that side of it still. And then we have the Hive, which is our events section. And we have Hive Media, which is our video productions, really starting to define those different arms of our business. But if we hadn't been fluid and moving through all the changes and shifts and circles over the last 3.5 years, would those sides be developed? Hard to say. If we hadn't been open to the idea that we could move as the world needed us to, would we still be here? Absolutely not. Possibility and potential can only take you so far. There actually has to be some business. And if you are not willing, in my opinion, to change your plan to keep your business going, then your business may have a date on it. It may not. Everyone's is different. But for us here at the Creative Hive, it absolutely would have been. But get ready to work really hard harder than you've ever worked. And the funny thing is that you want to be a part of it each and every day, that the hours that you calculate the day don't matter. They matter because you put them in, but you want to put them in. It's not like, oh, darn, I got to put another 2 hours in. It's like, yes, here we go. And what I can tell you is that there's the most exciting people in this space than there ever have been. As we start to move past this pandemic, we start to see where the next shift and where the next bend in the road is going to be for us and for this entire Creative Hive community, heck, for the entire city of Edmonton and outlying areas. It's exciting because there are big things happening. We believe that the potential to be flexible have allowed us to get there. In our space right now, we have activists, we have marketing teams, we have event planners, we have a non-for-profit. We have one gentleman who's been working here each and every day, co-working. He's the only co-worker that's going to stay in this space as we move forward because everyone believes in working together. There's a community that's being built here. I would honestly say personally for me that we've built a family in this space. So maybe we've done things a little backwards. It's worked for us. You got to figure out what works for you. But my best piece of advice is to stay flexible in how you make those decisions, to know that there may be more than one way to get there, that a plan is a perfect way to start, but make sure you do your plan in pencil because you may need to erase it. You may need to adjust. And keep learning. I am. There's so many things I absolutely don't know yet, and I'm struggling to find out each and every day. But start with a plan. Be ready to change that plan and know that it's okay to change that plan, because the idea of your business starting and where it ends, those are two different points. Imagine yourself being a kid and where you are now. You're not the same person. You have different dreams and different goals. You may still have the same values, but you don't have the same dreams and the same goals, the same outlook and the same knowledge. So being able to apply each one of those things is so exciting. I, for one, am wildly excited about the future. I'm wildly excited to see what each and every one of you does and can do. And just know that being creative and being exactly who you are in the way that you should be is going to be your path and your journey. I'm very excited to see it and to be a part of it, and reach out anytime if you have any questions or you want to come by and see the Creative Hive. This is a space for community, and very soon we will happily unlock that front door and let the community back in.